Victor. Victor, where are you? I don't like it when he's not here. It makes me nervous. Still, if he's not around, I shall seize the moment. Hello, welcome to Professor Stephen Hawking's TV Offal. Sing along with me, as I give you my impersonation of Pavarotti, performing Nessun Dorma. Off, off. Nessun Dorma!
Get off, Hawking! Roll the titles!
TV Offal, where quadriplegia is a suitable subject for light entertainment.
And coming up on TV Offal this week, my dinner all over the carpet. Just a joke, kids. No, we'll see Assassination of the Week, lots of attractive Welsh women, strange things happening in the gay Dalek space cottage, the TARDIS, and I'll be asking, would it spoil some vast eternal plan if I were a wealthy man? And if not, then is it okay if all day long I iddle-iddle-ummed?
Another unexpected celebrity bites the dust. On TV, Offal's honest obituary.
Ladies, two fat ladies.
Who died today?
Two fat ladies are itching
It was only this week
to get to New York City.
that viewers were watching the two fat ladies doing what they did best. Cooking by hand and flavouring their food with jewellery and nail varnish for maximum flavour and hygiene. Some said that the motorbike was the only genuine triumph in the entire show. Their critics were less kind, describing them as two women who had discovered the joy of lard but had forgotten how to throw up. They were the first to ape the mannerisms of aged aristocrats.
Let's go and lend our support to the jolly old lacrosse team.
There's not a man on my Ottoman. He's gone off to fight the Greeks.
Gin.
Contrary to their aristocratic cut-glass accents, they came from humble beginnings. Clarissa Dixon Wright, christened Mavis Clitty, was the daughter of a Bermondsey Street phlegm collector. And Jennifer Patterson, born Brenda Pidd, was spawned by a Wapping-based family who were regularly arrested for trading in illegal on-the-hoof barbecues. Their cuisine made a nation retch. They specialised in mussels and crabs. Jennifer had mussels and Clarissa had crabs. I mean the food, of course. But viewers could never understand how they managed to turn up each week at a place they'd claimed they'd never seen before, only to enter the kitchen and find it miraculously crammed with dishes they'd prepared the previous day. After the fat years came the lean years, when the public started to tire of their uncompromising physical ugliness and phony aristocratic speech. Their popularity declined after a series of marketing scandals. Worst of all was the police swoop on their premises after the two fat ladies began marketing their own brands of oil. Their olive oil was legitimate, made as it was from freshly pressed olives. But police swooped after they discovered that they were producing baby oil using freshly pressed babies. Broken women, they were last seen alive on a bender in Crawley, a drunken spree which led, inevitably, to disaster. Even by their standards, the two fat ladies' deaths were bizarre.
Did you see Last Tango in Paris? You really want to get it well greased.
What started as simple horseplay eventually led to grotesque and fatal sexual experimentation.
Yum, yum, yum.
Involving bondage masks and satsumas, as seen on this home video recorded in the early hours of this morning.
Whoops-a-daisy.
The two fat ladies who died today.
Tantrums of the Week.
As a TV critic, I sometimes write hurtful and unkind things about celebrities, but what impresses me most about these celebrities is the dignified way they always rise above it and don't demean themselves by answering back.
Victor Lewis Smith should be put in a home for...
Well, I feel almost for those who don't know, he's the critic of The Stand.
Yeah, this country hates celebrities. Victor Lewis Smith is a failed performer in his own right, and he seems to now want to get back at anyone.
Well, never mind him, he's not here.
Yes, it's a conspiracy. I want to get back at the big stars, the mega celebrities, the beautiful people like Anthony Worrell Thompson. I want to crush him in my reviews. Crush him! But I don't want to just crush him on paper or on television. Oh, no. Oh, no, I want to crush him in real life. I want to crush him and kill him and bury the bits in the bottom of my garden!
They're camp, they exterminate. Better watch your backs. It's the Gay Daleks.
It's time for another adventure with the celestial gay stereotypes as they penetrate a red dwarf from behind in their galactic cruiser, the TARDIS.
Gang, gang, gooly, gooly,
Goody goody watcher, king kangoo, king kangoo. Oh, bollocks! Where did you learn that song? In the Scouts. I never knew you were a Dalek Boy Scout. Yes, I worked my way up from the bottom. You fudge-packing pile of bent metal. Shut up and pass me a peanut butter and KY jelly sandwich. Camping has given you an appetite? Yes, I'm looking forward to waking up in the morning with a boiled egg and 2 lovely thick soldiers. It will be very dark soon. I will be frightened. I think there are ghosts. Oh dear, don't put the willies up me. You used to like it when I put the willies up you. I knew I should never have gone out with a black. I will put the willies up you. That's it. Talk dirty. Gosh, oh Lord, I'm having a spunk blowback. Exterminate. White wee wee, white wee wee, ooh.
Join the gay Daleks next time when they suffer from alopecia and bad luck. They buy a book on hair care and all the pages fall out.
TV Offal's found another crappy logo of the week.
If ever a TV logo described the region it covered, surely this is it. Peaceful, calm, tranquil, rural, Semtex, pastoral, rustic... Semtex?
TV Offal.
As you know, TV Offal regularly scours the dustbins behind the TV stations in search of bits of TV garbage. Tonight we found a show presented by a rusty bit of garbage, but that's enough about Ted Rogers, because here are Britain's thickest quiz show contestants.
This is a composer, German by birth, English by adoption. Best known for an oratorio published in 1741. It was called Messiah. You're bound to know his Handel. Who is it?
God, I used to have this at school.
Well, you were nearly there.
Handel's Water Music.
Well, so who's the composer?
Chopin.
Yes, so I can offer it to you. Any idea? Beethoven? No, it wasn't Beethoven.
Ridiculous. Even Ted knows that the answer is Schubert. Incidentally, all the couples later went on to Mastermind, where their specialist subject was not being able to find their arses with both hands. Fantasy Programme of the Week. What if Roy Walker, raconteur and shit, and presenter of the family show Catchphrase, had some Spanish fly dropped into his tea and suddenly acquired a filthy mind? Want to find out? Then, oh, this is bloody ridiculous.
Thank you! See if you can tell what's in this picture. Oh, I'm afraid you're out of time. The answer we were looking for was hung like a mule. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's one you can play at home. See if you can tell what's in this picture. Oh, I'm afraid you're out of time. The answer we were looking for was Arse Bandit.
Assassination of the week. Did they live or are they one food?
This footage of President John F. Kennedy at Dealey Plaza in Texas was taken by a Mr. Zabruga in 1963. I can hardly bear to look. It's so dreadful. There's no backlighting, he's not holding the camera steady, and he should have used an f8 exposure and a 400 ASA film to ensure a fuller depth of field already. That film was very badly shot. But was the president badly shot too? Is he now impersonating a doornail? Did he become a professional poppy pusher-upper? In short, was he worm food? Find out after the break.
Rizzler, makers of cigarette papers and rolling machines, present the new Rizzler Standard Machine, the equally new Rizzler Luxury Machine, and of course, your Rizzler Daily Papers. Rizzler Rolling provides the discerning smoker with the opportunity to make his own cigarettes the way he likes best. Rizzler Rolling gives you freedom of choice. There are 4 different Rizzler papers. Green for machine rolling, red or blue for hand rolling, and for a different flavour, licorice papers. When the tobacco's in, insert the paper, moisten it, roll it a little, and there's your own custom-built cigarette. And this special lever allows you to roll them thick or thin.
TV Offal.
Charcoal. Before the break, we asked why Mr. Zeebrugge had let his camera jiggle around like this. And we also asked if President Kennedy had been cranially ventilated in a can't-be-president-anymore sort of a way. Conspiracy theories abound. Some say the president had his brains blown out by an assailant. Others say the president had placed an exploding bullet inside his own brain and cleverly committed suicide while making it look like a shooting. However, I now know that the president merely sneezed, and that what was considered to be brain matter was in fact presidential mucus. Isn't it obvious? JFK was so mortified to see his snot smeared all over his wife's party frock that he merely feigned his death to spare her further embarrassment. Ever the gentleman, apropos of nothing.
This is BBC One.
Back in the 1960s, everything on television was in black and white, including snooker, which is why snooker looked like this.
So far, he's cannoned off the grey, he's snookered the grey behind the grey, and he must pot the grey. But if he rebounds off the grey, the opponent's grey might snooker his grey, and oh dear.
Also, apropos of nothing, back in the early 1960s, there was no overt sex on television, and all eroticism had to be performed in code. Put those two facts together, and you have
The black and white minstrel show.
a bit of harmless light entertainment for elderly spinsters in Pinner. Not on your life. No, you don't have to be Sigmund Freud to realise what this was all about. Frizzy-haired black men with huge lips and big bulging eyes, spooking as they danced with a troupe of southern belles. Look! Sometimes you could even get 2 racial stereotypes for the price of 1. I'm no sociologist, unless you count the PhD in group gestalt theory and the 7 years I spent studying with Berger, but my theory is the programme was a gentrified version of a misplaced fear that was rife in Britain in the 1960s. That black men would come over here and bang the living daylights out of our white women with their huge members, which, for the millions of nervous middle-aged spinsters who watched the show every Saturday, was their worst fear and their greatest desire. Why? If it's bright and orange and it can't get through a revolving door, then it's Judith Chalmers with a spear through her bonds. Where was I? Oh yes, remember Disco Down, Welsh TV's answer to Top of the Pops? When TV Offal first broadcast excerpts from the series, we received letters by the millions asking to see more. So for Mr. and Mrs. Millions of Crawley, you've heard of the Ronettes? Well, here's the Celtic version, the Uglets!
When you fly away on your holiday, careful not to pack your bags with weirdo things. Cause the customs men have X-ray vision. You may end up in prison. Weirdo bags on TV Offal.
I'm going to read this very quickly because it's the least funny bit in the programme. This week, TV Offal goes to Sondica Airport in Bilbao, where the conveyor belt has a weirdo bag containing a 13-inch vibrator and a mackerel, found in the bag of a Senor Miguel Rodriguez, who also had a second bag full of false teeth. Why on earth would anyone take 40 sets of false teeth to Spain? Perhaps he was hoping to join the upper set. And so we salute the men in uniforms, rummaging through our private things for their own personal pleasure. But remember, as they always say, it's for your own safety.
Kamikaze karaoke.
I've not been feeling myself lately, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I decided to try some alternative therapy. I've been trying that one with the, where you stick the needles in all over your body. You feel really great after. What's it called? Acute heroin addiction. That's it. No, I'm only joking, teenagers. In fact, I don't take drugs. But too much reality can have dangerous side effects, which is why this is how Bob Marley sounds to me.
We're jamming. See, I want to jam it with you. We're jamming. And we hope you like jamming too. We're jamming with it. I want to jam it. I want to jam with you now.
I ask you, never mind the voice, who in their right mind would sport a hairstyle like that?
And the toast is the bride in a gown from
the Jean Miller Bridal Salon. On that special day, we'll dress your little lady to look like a princess.
It's Sunday morning across the nation. See all the grease balls on every station.
It's nice selling good, especially when you're almost dead. It's nice selling good. Forget the garden, sell God instead.
Fading stars whose careers are over end up co-hosting with Jehovah.
Blow your horn and shake your tambourine. Bang on your dialysis machine. 'Cause there's a place for you when you die. The program scheduled in the sky. It's nice selling God.
So nice.
Your career was lost, but now it's found. It's nice selling God.
So nice.
With the ugliest bunch of flockers around. But now we must stop 'cause our lawyer says that God will sue.
I love the Holy Ghost.
By the way, do you know what you get if you cross a Hell's Angel with a Jehovah's Witness? You get someone who knocks at your door on a Sunday morning, tells you to fuck off and headbutts you. But that aside, we've seen about everything this week. But frankly, I'm just too lazy to show you clips of stuff we've already shown. You should have been paying attention, audience of drunken student, deadbeat, layabout scum. Get out of my life, you malodorous bone-idle. Changes tone of voice to smarmy, because I've just remembered the spin-off videotape and the potential advertising revenue. But let me leave you with a bedtime image of babies chewing razor blades as I cause more unrest.
Well, we have a sort of establishing caption, 4 a.m., 4:15 a.m., Derek Nimmo's house. Light goes on. Picks up the phone.
Hiya?
Oh, hello, Mr. Derek Nimmo?
Yes?
Yeah, it's Mr. Herald here from the Daily Ron.
Yes?
Have you heard the news?
What news?
About the Queen Mother?
Oh, no, she's died.
Put it this way, Mr. Nimmo, she's met the mother of all fish bones. The woman is worm food.
Oh, Lord.
Do you have any quotes at all for tomorrow morning?
Well, I was fast asleep, you see.
Well, that is the quote. Is that the quote? Queen Mother dead. Derek Nimmo says I was fast asleep, you see. Do you want me to say you were fast asleep?
She just sort of brought such happiness everywhere, I think. I mean...
Certainly tonight.
In such...
Splendour.
Such splendour. I mean, it just, we will miss her so much.
It's a splendour. I think...
Sorry?
Then...
I really can't...
Are you pissed?
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry.
Nah.
The BBC had a lunch party for about 12 of us.
I thought so.
2:45 and 4:45. I didn't have to be at my dance till 10.
Until 10, yeah.
Oh, really?
Lovely. Yeah. God bless you. Good evening.
Sorry?
Oh dear. I'm trying to interrupt the closing credits. So, I know this is never done. In fact, you've caught me having my dinner. I thought it was all over, but... Well, you'd hardly believe it. We've just heard news of the death of yet another famous personality. And this is how I imagine Michael Burke making the tragic announcement.
Another unexpected celebrity bites the dust. On TV, Offal's honest obituary.
Nigel Kennedy.
Who died today?
It was only this week that Nigel Kennedy was doing what he loved best. displaying his extraordinary mastery of violin technique while simultaneously maintaining the highest standards of etiquette, decorum and social protocol.
Monster, man. Listen to this.
Some said that he was a tone-deaf, superannuated punk rocker who'd made a mockery of classical music but didn't even look as good in a wet T-shirt as Vanessa May. His critics were less kind. They said he was simply Gary Rhodes with a violin and wondered how it was that a boy who used to talk like this...
But when it came to the time when I had to make up my mind which I was going to play, I wanted to play the violin.
...grew into a man who talked like this.
Because I've done it for 20 years or something. And then, like, when I started hanging out, like, with...
Born Ken Neddy, Nigel Kennedy was raised by parents so refined that his mother made even the Queen sound like a slut.
Well, since I've known he's really got some talent, I thought he ought to go to one.
After studying for years at the Yehudi Menuhin School, he faced the exciting future that awaits all graduating violinists, spending the next 40 years being 43rd violin in the middle of sodding nowhere Philharmonic. It was then that his agent advised him to wise up and dumb down by buying a football scarf and playing gigs for the sort of clueless teenage audiences who think the Four Seasons is a pizza topping. In short, he contracted what doctors call common touch syndrome. But then came the day when he announced that he would no longer play music by decomposing composers. His announcement was given added gravitas by the reference to it on BBC News.
Nigel Kennedy, who's introduced millions to the works of Beethoven, Vivaldi and Brahms, says he won't be playing any more dead men's music.
And would, in future, only perform pieces by living musicians, like, say, the extremely undead Jimi Hendrix. The classical world was shocked, but got over it in about 3 seconds and forgot all about him. So, a few years later, Nigel started playing dead men's music again, hoping no one would remember what he'd said before. But he was wrong. The police accused him of committing robbery with violins. His artistic license was endorsed, and his final days were spent in a psychiatric institution, where he decided, as a career gimmick, to play dead men's music, this time as a dead man himself. He was found with the F-hole of his violin rammed up his fundament, which caused fatal internal bleeding and dreadful intonation. Nigel Kennedy, who died today. Oh yes, and catchphrase, I forgot. This is how it still seems to me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another catchphrase, and Mr. Chips is in this one.
Pass.
I'm afraid you're thick as shite, and the answer was, fuck me till I fart. Goodbye.
Another swell TV show from Associated Rediffusion.